You are looking live at the American Airlines Arena in Dallas, Texas. I'm told that facility can hold close to 20,000 individuals. I want you to look outside this arena among the 20,000 expected to be in that arena. And you know who they're there for? Donald Trump. Any other candidate would die for the amount of attention and recognition and free publicity that the billionaire presidential candidate is getting. But to fill an arena that size with an unscripted speech, especially given some of the comments lately, as he continues to soar in the polls. Welcome, everybody. I'm Neil Cavuto, and you're watching Your World. And such confusion because Hillary Clinton is losing female support. And guess who is gaining it substantially? Yeah, Donald Trump. You are not looking or living in an alternate universe. You are looking at an early snapshot of campaign 2016. To Susan Crabtree with the Washington Examiner and GOP pollster Lee Carter. Lee, you and I were saying during the break, that's weird.
It's really weird.
What's going on?
It defies all logic, and it has from the beginning. When Trump first announced, there was no support. You might have, I wasn't doing focus groups with 30 people. There might be one or two who found him interesting. It's growing, it's growing. It grew with men. And now we're seeing women are responding because they're not acting that differently than men. They're saying, enough of the establishment. I want something different.
You know, I hear from a lot of people too, Susan, who say, well, I thick skin if he says something offensive or you deem it offensive. I judge him on other issues and other issues he's bringing to the table, and that's that. But what explains this?
Well, I think what explains it is Hillary Clinton is relying on Democratic women voters, and women voters do care about trust, and she is failing in that department extraordinarily.
But it's a weird juxtaposition, is it not?
Oh,
she is losing that female support as the mainstream media is all but called this guy a chauvinist, and is gaining that support. What's going on?
Here's the problem for Trump in the general election. You have to look ahead. There's a huge opportunity for him. He is doing well among GOP women because Republican women are more angry. They're part of that anti-establishment that Lee Carter talked about, and they aren't differentiating between the trust factor and the anti-establishment. They're just part of that wave of anti-establishment.
You might be right,
movement.
but Lee, I'm also looking at this and seeing an ability to craft a wider coalition that might lose some mainstream women, for lack of a better term, but is gaining so many others that it dwarfs that.
You know, I would have thought that the women weren't going to go here. I thought maybe Carly was going to pick up some steam. I would have thought some other things were going to happen. But women are sending a clear message. And right now they're saying, I want something very different. I want to know about the things that impact my pocketbook. It's not just about whether or not you're a chauvinist. He's talking about these issues that really matter. He's talking about minimum wage. He's talking about things that women care about. But it's not even as much about policy as much as it is this relationship that they're building with them and saying, you know what, he's saying things that I wish other people would say, not necessarily about women, but about the economy as a whole.
If it is, pardon my being sexist here, Susan, if this is a sign that women are saying, look, yeah, he might have offended some of us. We're far more offended by other things that he is bringing up that the other candidates are ignoring, which could explain, to your point, some of that strength. Then what are we really seeing here?
Honestly, I think you're seeing a split between Democratic women and Republican women right now, and the anti-establishment fervor that's going on in the country.
But wait a minute, he's within 4 points of Hillary Clinton right now. In some surveys, 3. He once trailed her by 40 points.
I know. I'm looking at the general election, though. I think that Donald Trump has a huge opportunity as he surges here, but he cannot afford to keep bashing women because in the general election, it's going to be a different dynamic. I think that he has trouble with Hillary Clinton in a general election.
Well, that was a general election poll. That was a general poll. If those two were pitted against each other right now.
I think we've got to look at what Hillary is doing wrong, too.
Right.
I mean, she's
Certainly
not very likable right now. When we're talking to folks, people are getting turned off from her by the minute. Her trust factor is decreasing. And I think that's really playing into Trump's favor and some of the other anti-establishment candidates.
All right, well, something's resonating here. Carly Fiorina is trying to take advantage of this void, though, especially attacks that Donald Trump has raised on her. Take a look at her response.
Ladies, look at this face. And look at all of your faces. the face of leadership. The face of leadership in our party, the party of women's suffrage.
It's a pretty smart ad. Penny Nance, what do you think of it? Penny is with the Concerned Women for America.
It's right on point. It was very smart. It draws attention to the asinine comment that Donald Trump made about her looks. And it's, you know, inspiring. I did an unscientific poll among my office, and my daughter's a college student, and 201, the women that I talked to said that they loved it. They thought it was powerful. We're sick to death of victim baiting feminism. And she's really, I think, right on point. And I think that also goes to the point of why that Hillary is dropping like a stone.
Are you surprised, just to touch on what our prior guests were saying, that Donald Trump has not been damaged by this among women? Now, I know among Republican women, that's a point. Mm-hmm. But in a general election matchup with Hillary Clinton, he's running even with her.
You know, I'm not surprised, because it's one thing after another, and it will be a cumulative effect. Now, did I think all of this would catch up with him before now? Yes, I did. But we're still a long way from Iowa, Neil, and I think a lot has to happen. And when women go into the voting booth, they have to ask themselves, will this candidate make our country stronger? Will he make us economically stronger? Does he keep us safe on national security front?
For now, they've concluded that he just might, because he's not proving Herman Cain or Michelle Bachmann kind of flash in the pan 75-plus days in the race.
It's not over yet. He's a train wreck. We can't look away. I mean, look, he's entertaining. He's a showman.
I think you're you know what, Penny, and I respect you greatly. I think you're trivializing him, because I think a lot of people don't get him, or they say he's a showman long before he was a proverbial showman or an apprentice star, what have you. You know, he was a guy, a real estate titan building an empire. Now people can play fast and loose with that and mock the empire and everything else. The fact of the matter is, long before he became a TV star, you know, he was a successful businessman. So I think that trivializes that. But having said that, do you think that's what some women are looking at, regardless of whether now and then he offends them with his language and by his demeanor?
I think they're sick of the idea that women are overly sensitive, that we're victims. We're strong, and that was why I think that this ad will do very well for Hillary Clinton. It speaks to the power of women, and it doesn't talk down to us the way the Democratic Party has done now for 2 election cycles. So, look, you're right. He is a strong candidate. I don't know how this is going to end, but I think at the end of the day, when women have to go into a voting booth and make a decision about the safety of their children and their economic well-being, that I don't think it's going to be Trump. I don't.
All right. Well, in that deciding process, nor will it be a comment on someone's looks then, by that definition, right?
That is one isolated incident, but we've got to look at overall how he deals with anyone who challenges him and the issues. I could go into a range of issues where
you are right, and all
have
that
questions.
Will be coming into focus, especially with the big debate next week. Thank you very much. Good seeing you, Penny.
You too.
Well, there's no doubt that Hillary Clinton is the one suffering the most here. And to this guy, Bernie Sanders, and you know Sanders is feeling his oats here when he's not in an immediate campaign state like Iowa, New Hampshire, but in Virginia, and specifically today at Liberty University. Take a look.
Every public college and university in America should be tuition free. The United States government must provide at least 12 weeks of paid family and medical leave.
All right, you may say not affordable, not doable, but something is in the water worldwide, because socialists are making inroads in the UK, for example, and we've seen some opposition parties of a liberal bent surging across at least a half a dozen European countries as well. To the Heritage Foundation's Niall Gardner on that. Niall, I think this is bigger than Bernie Sanders, you know?
No, I think you're right, Neil. And what we are seeing across parts of the world, especially in Europe, is a resurgence of the far left. And just this past weekend in London, Jeremy Corbyn won the election for the Labour Party by an overwhelming majority. And Corbyn is a die-hard socialist. He is probably the most extreme left-wing figure that we have seen in British politics for many decades. This is a man, for example, who believes that Britain should leave NATO. He believes in getting rid of Britain's nuclear weapons. He called the death of Osama bin Laden a tragedy. And that shows you just how extreme Jeremy Corbyn is. And he didn't just win the Labour Party vote. He won a stunning landslide victory in the Labour Party.
But see, that's what I mean, Ala. It might end there, that he's, obviously galvanized the base in his own Liberal Party, just like Bernie Sanders has galvanized the base in his party. But it might be like a McGovern-like phenomenon. That George McGovern galvanized the base of the Democratic Party in 1972, but went on to a landslide defeat to Richard Nixon that year. In other words, can get the nomination, can get the support of the party, will go nowhere with the general public in a general election. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I think for Jeremy Corbyn in Britain, it's going to be extremely difficult for him to win the next general election, which is due in 2020 in the United Kingdom. So I think it's going to be an extremely difficult.
They don't call an earlier election, right? I mean,
yes.
I never understand the way you guys do elections, but
extremely difficult path. But I think what you have seen, Neil, certainly is on both sides of the Atlantic, a resurgence of support for traditional socialism. But here in America as well, I think you've seen an embrace of big government, European-style socialism. And that, I think, is out of touch, out of kilter with what most Americans think. Also, I think that Great Britain is still a conservative country, and I think that Jeremy Corbyn's very radical message isn't going to play very well, actually, with the vast majority of the British people, although he has been backed by a majority within his own party. But the Labour Party, of course, was emphatically defeated in the recent British general election, and I think that with Jeremy Corbyn, they're likely to lose again if they're going to stick to this very radical, hardline socialist agenda.
Bottom line, incumbents or those who are thought to be the main holders of power in their respective parties are not guaranteed a lock on leadership. Later on in this show, we'll explain what happened to Australia's Prime Minister, or shall I say former Prime Minister, who found out the hard way today. In the meantime, sir, thank you very much. Good to see you again now. Now let's take a look at what happened at the corner Wall and Broad today. Growing angst about that Federal Reserve Open Market Committee meeting. They're going to decide the course of interest rates. Growing talk that this could be a meeting where they're inclined to hike rates. Even if it doesn't happen now, they might set the stage for that. And would grease the skids a little bit, a surprisingly strong report or news out of Apple that over the weekend there were very, very strong sales online for that new iPhone 6S and 6S Plus. So strong, it apparently dwarfed early sales. So it again fueled this idea that people are very much inclined to keep buying. Regardless, the man who Ronald Reagan took to the woodshed, David Stockman, told me earlier on Fox Business, we got problems, big problems. Take a look.
The jig is up. 80 months of ZIRP, zero interest rates, is crazy enough. It's time for the Fed to stop its wretched jihad against the savers and retirees of America.
And do what?
And allow the market to find an interest rate that makes sense.
By the way, Stockman said we have another few thousand points to go on the Dow. We're not done. He meant a few thousand points more down. Yikes. And you know that big refugee problem that is haunting all of Europe right now? Millions of Syrian refugees trying to make their way. And you remember how generous Germany was in the beginning? We're going to find a home for upwards of 1 million of these guys. Germany is all but shutting its doors. And this great open Europe that doesn't have any boundaries, they're building walls. Yeah, walls.